check us out first.
In half a mile, turn left on East Jeff Davis Avenue.
Jesus. Hold on, I'm going to my page to see if it's like. Yeah, we are.
All right, I appreciate you being with us tonight. We are going to do a little update here because we now have a tropical storm, IE slash possible hurricane trying to form tonight across the western Gulf of Mexico. Brett Adair joins me now. He is on the road. He is hot and heavy, lead foot and all. Brett,
Turn left on East Jeff Davis
following
Avenue.
this storm today, a little surprising, I guess. I was outside fishing when I heard it was strengthening pretty rapidly, and I know you're on your way down to the south. Where are you headed?
Well, Dave, right now we just had to get off I-10. This is the worst highway in the world after you pass the Atchafalaya River Basin. West of Lafayette, we had to get off. Apparently, there's an accident between Tucson and Rain, Louisiana. We're continuing just because we had already planned to be in Lake Charles tonight. So we're headed toward the west currently, and we're going to stay there tonight. And then it looks like we may end up having to move a little toward the east based on the way everything looks from our guidance. It's trying to shift things a little bit to the right now. So we're going to keep watching this situation, but we've got a couple of special projects that we're going to be running along the coastline for the next really 12 hours, 24 hours until this thing starts to move inland.
Yeah, I know you. We've done this to some degree. I know you started this whole project a couple of years ago. You had a couple of cameras that were out there, but now there's obviously been a lot of innovation going into this whole thing about these surge cameras that you see. And again, there's the advisory, by the way. We're at 65-mile-per-hour winds, and we're just about 600 and, well, about 420 miles actually south of Cameron, Louisiana. 992 millibars was found by the Recon a little bit earlier. Got two planes out there at the moment, NOAA, and the Air Force is out there as well. And the storm, as of 10 o'clock tonight, again, 65-mile-per-hour winds. They didn't really upgrade this to a hurricane because it was fairly disorganized through the latter part of this afternoon, evening. But maybe a resurgence now, Brad. We'll look at you and I look at the radar and the satellite here in just a couple of minutes. But talk about the project, the storm surge project that you got going on.
Well, for several years, we've been toying with different cameras that we have kind of built and designed throughout the last several years and putting them in front of some storms. Well, we had different service providers that we wanted to use for those. We've kind of figured out what works and what doesn't. We've got some better camera technology now. And we've got four of these that we're going to put out along the Louisiana coastline because Louisiana looks like it's going to take the brunt of this mess right now, in particular. And we're going to be putting those out tomorrow, probably somewhere around Vermilion Bay, and then maybe onto the east over toward Grand Isle, Cogadry, maybe even Morgan City, Sippermort Point. Some of those areas are likely to get some of the worst of the activity since they're on the right side of the system.
Yeah, I got a bunch of cameras that we'll be looking at through the day tomorrow, and we're going to be doing live coverage off and on as the event rolls along. But right now, Jarvis, if you could take the WSV product here and take a look at what's going on. There's the low pressure, the satellite image that we're looking at, Brad. I hope you can see it. This is the infrared image that does show there's a new blossoming sort of taking place, and we're just south and east of Brownsville, Louisiana here, Brownsville, Texas. But there's the latest track that veers away from land as we go through the next 24 hours and then heads on northward as a Category 1. But as you go northward, there is the expectation of a Category 2. Brett, you were talking about this a couple of days ago that you thought this might be an overachiever, and kind of looking that way.
Yeah, potentially. The only thing that's got my concern right now, David, if you'll scroll back down a little bit to the south where we can see that center on the WSV3 product there, you can see there is a little bit of an explosion in that center of circulation inner core area. Look at all that dry air that is wrapped in there through the afternoon today, and that has disrupted the core quite a bit. I was looking, the Air Force reconnaissance planes were going into there, and you like to see a big, deep moisture envelope, really from the top down in tropical systems. You don't look for dry air. And there was some dry air really at about 900 millibars all the way up. The sounding in the southeast quad almost looked like a goal post about an hour ago.
Yeah.
That doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies, but we are going into D-min, which means we typically see the air temperature cool and those surface waters are very, very warm. So we should see some explosive convection around the center tonight, and that could be what's beginning there. And if we can get that envelope to expand and form that CDO that we saw earlier, big dense overcast over that center, we could see this thing wrap up. But also, it's south of the front. It's on the east side of a kind of a flatter trough that's across Texas, and you can see that system is stretched from south-southwest to north-northeast pretty good right now. So intensification is likely to be kept somewhat tame. Category 2 storm, I could see it making that. Does it make a run for something bigger than that? Well, we really need to see those thunderstorm tops explode over that center before that's even in the conversation.
Yeah, so now we've got a landfall into the afternoon, evening coming up on the, let's see, that goes through, well, that doesn't really track very well there. But as a 86 mile per hour storm with some gusts to 104 is what it says. Jarvis, can we do the my iPad here full screen? Maybe not, or just any way, shape, or form. There it is, and you can see where the storm is. Brett wrapped up just a little bit more on the radar imagery tonight. This is coming in out of Brownsville, and you can pretty well see where the center is. Maybe a CDO beginning to form a little bit better there. And these big thunderstorms that are forming, these are thunderstorms. I got a little lightning being detected here as well coming on shore. So there's going to be a couple of threats here that we'd be looking at on the southeastern side of Texas from about Brownsville. Corpus Christi all the way to the north here, where there may be a tornado threat as we go through the night tonight. Brett, and we've often talked about this. The SPC doesn't really pick up on that very well in the long term, but they'll be talking about this, I'm sure, in the short term. We'll have that threat for a while now, along with some potential flooding, because I know this is going to be a long-term situation.
Most definitely, as we see this system, again, they're in South Texas. They've been dealing with some of those outer thunderstorm bands for the last several hours in that Brownsville region, far southern tip, and into eastern Mexico, North Mexico there. As this continues to move off toward the northeast, you mentioned the lightning. That's a very good indicator that we do have dry air entrainment within the system right now, seeing more and more of those lightning strikes. But the other factor is dry air is something that aids in tornado formation in the mid-levels. So we're going to be watching that. If the drier that this system remains on the eastern side as it moves up toward coastal Louisiana, we could see an interior tornado threat develop, East Louisiana, Mississippi, southern Alabama, all the way over to the Florida Panhandle over your way before all is said and done.
Over in the, if it's been the weather sucked here. I mean, it's just been sucky for the last several days. It is certainly not the Sunshine State, and this is only going to aid and abet that whole thing there. But yeah, I know. I was kind of looking at that possibility as the thing pulls on out. We might get some a good thunderstorm threat and maybe some water spouts that would be showing up here into the area too. Brett, is there anything else? I mean, this is really just a preliminary thing that we wanted to pop in here because this is kind of new, but I know you got a ton of stuff going on. You're going to be on the road during the day for a while now, you and Heath. I'm always, privy to what's going on when it comes to how long your days are going to be here. But anything else that you want to add to this tonight? Because it's pretty cut and dried at the moment. I don't see anything that would look like, and I've had a bunch of text messages today from people like, is it coming my way? Maybe Florida Panhandle-ish. This looks pretty cut and dried at the moment, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think Vermilion Bay in south central Louisiana is probably a pretty good area that I would say is going to take the brunt of this storm as it moves toward the northeast eventually. Within 48 hours, probably we're going to see conditions really go downhill by midday Wednesday and then get to their peak as we approach dark on Wednesday and then finally see a landfall. And then areas to the east of that obviously will be on that dirty side of the storm too, onshore flow, the possibility of tornadoes, water spouts, and luckily for tonight, we're back on I-10. We've got about 45 minutes more of driving, and then we're going to call it a night. It's going to allow us to get some rest, and then we'll be up and at them in the morning. We do know that several people here that we talked to, say that as the storm looked like it was blowing up pretty good earlier, gas lines had gotten pretty long along the I-10 corridor from Baton Rouge on to the west and then south of there, obviously. But I know there's some mandatory evacuation orders in place all the way as far west as Cameron Parish now. And then along the coastline to the east there where the hurricane warning is in effect. We'll be checking out some of those areas tomorrow again as we are deploying our camera network out for the system. And we'll be back to give you guys some updates throughout the day tomorrow, and then definitely again tomorrow night as we get closer to the system being a problem.
That's going to be pretty cool. We got a couple of questions, by the way. Somebody just asked who gets to name the storms. Brett and I do. We do that on the weekends, actually. We put those together while we're having chicken wings somewhere. Actually, that's a thing that happens at a big event over in Europe, the World Meteorological Society. They put those names together, and other than the ones that get retired, they do come up with a few. And there's a large Spanish contingency, so a lot of these do get Spanish type names, and they really do that just to confuse Brett and I. Because
yes, and they circulate around, and if they don't retire, I think they circulate around every 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
Every 6 years.
Yeah, somebody asked how to make moonshine. That's the whole different channel there, folks. And Connie Bosworth is with us from Ohio. Hi, Connie. How are you? Thank you for being with us tonight. John Harris is with us. He says, will it miss Corpus Christi? And the likelihood is, will it miss Corpus? It's the center of the storm. The likelihood is that it veers away from Corpus Christi. So that is the good news. We got photojournalist Michael Beard is with us tonight. That's a great guy. Am Howell 13 is with us from Arkansas. And Big Sky is with us now at the moment. And if we go back to the three real quick, he wants to know what the track is. Maybe missed that at the very beginning. The track goes from just south and east of Brownsville, Texas, and then travels northward, southeast of, we'll say due south of Beaumont, the Sabine River. It is projected by NHC to become a Category 2 hurricane before making landfall to the north and running up right around here where Brett Adair will be live over the period, and a Category 2 hurricane. Brett's been through several right there. New Iberia, that's going to be right on the south and western side of Louisiana. Very low-lying area there, Brett. I know you know it well, and I know you're going to be safe there.
Yeah, most definitely. That's the reason we're going to go ahead and start traversing down into that area tomorrow, scout some locations out. We've dealt with several hurricanes in this region, since the late 2010s. So we're pretty familiar. A lot of this is bayous and marshland, and I know somebody mentioned something about making moonshine earlier. I don't know about that, but we might be able to find you a Cajun to make some good boudin tomorrow, because I can tell you that boudin and crab cakes are a delicacy here. So I'm hoping I can find somebody to hook me up with that.
That's 80% of the reason you went. I know that. Stormin' Norman is with us, and Stormin' Norman says, what are your biggest concerns for this chase? Specifically, the terrain, ? You just kind of alluded to that, Brett.
Not a lot of roads. Road network is very sparse. A lot of bayous and inlets. That's a reason very few ways in and out along the coastline here. I think David, all the way back to Goodness gracious. I think you did Gustav down here in
I
what,
did.
2012?
Yeah, it was some guy
And
that never paid me the money. Um, yeah, I did, but yeah, I did do Gustav down there. I did get, back in the 80s, I went right through there to go all the way down to Matamoros, Mexico to do a storm one time. But I've been through all of that down there. That's a heck of a drive when you get down there, especially when everybody's coming back in the other direction.
right, there's really only one way in and one way out. That's, for
Yeah.
example, we intend on putting the camera up tomorrow at Grand Isle. Well, once we get to like Baton Rouge, it's still 3.5 hours down to Grand Isle because there's one road in and there's one road out. So you don't have any shortcuts or any of that stuff going on. So yeah, it's challenging. You have to be very calculated. You can get in trouble if you're down there on the coastline and in regards to being close to the storm as surge is coming in. But in our case, it makes for very long drives because if you're going to Grand Isle up to like Homa, it still takes 2.5 hours to get around there because it's one road.
Shout out to Anthony Guarino, I believe. Hey guys, he says, and also I wanted to mention Alberta, Canada. Somebody from Alberta, Johnny Scott, joins us and did a little chat from Alberta, Canada. Know that well? No, I don't know that at all. Actually, I've heard of it and I know where it is, but never actually been there. And who else? Did I skip anybody? Gets to name these storms. Is it moving? Oh, let's see. More westward push? Not really. And again, Connie Bosworth from Ohio. This is off the cuff. We didn't really expect anybody to be with us. In fact, I didn't expect anybody to be watching but Brett and I. And that's kind of where we are.
I will tell you this: we
Yeah.
could hang out for just a couple more minutes if we wanted, because Recon is flying through the core of that storm right now. It would be kind of neat to see what they find on this last pass, because it's looking like they should have that any moment. Looks like they're already down in the 990s
I see
with their
991.
well, yeah, but they're extrapolated past. They're about to fly right through the center of or what should be the center, here any moment with their next pass. But it's also starting to bend, right? It's not moving much in the way of that
No.
westerly direction anymore.
No, I don't think so. Let's see. That's old. So you're talking about the Air Force flight, and I think you and I are probably looking at two different kinds of information here. But the Air Force flight is going through the eye again at the moment. A couple of ways you know this is if you look at some of the data, and this is just raw graph stuff. You can certainly see when they go through the eye, the barometric pressure falls here, and that's in the red color that you see. The barometric pressure falling there down to the 991. And that was at 01, so we're looking at after 7 o'clock a little earlier, and then this goes up to 312, so 1012. And
This next pass should be any second. I just thought it would be interesting to see what it showed before we jumped off the air to see if we might be having a little intensification phase there with that thunderstorm cloud top explosion over the center. But of course, it's probably going to take forever now that I mention it.
it
For the past
probably
update. Regardless, that's what we've got to see. We've got to see more of those type of tops in that center region. But man, that southeastern side dry air right there is pretty awful at this moment.
Yeah, let's go. Let me do the satellite. Yeah. Now you can see. There's a decent little blow up there, right at the last.
Right there.
Yeah, on the south side anyway.
I just don't like the fact that I'm seeing a goal post above 900. I just looked on the drop sondes there, David, on that mission. The latest one is drop 14. It was down the southeast quad of what should be, a moist tropical plume. And that thing looks like a goalpost. If you go, yeah, click that one down there. There it is. Right there above 900, you can see it's starting to separate pretty hard.
And what he's talking about there is the difference between the temperature and the dew point as you go with height here. The numbers on the left are the barometric pressure, but as it goes upward, instead of seeing them close together, you're seeing them separate, and that's an indication of less relative humidity and thus the dry air that's coming in to the storm. You see they're pretty close together all the way until that point.
That makes me wonder, David, if again it's going to keep the intensity levels in check until we get a big convective plume that can cast out over top of that center. And that may be what's starting now, but I think we'll know in the next couple of hours if again we wake up in the morning and it's a hurricane, we'll know. But that's kind of a nasty look right there to be a tropical cyclone at this moment.
Yeah. Let's see. That ain't gonna work. Yeah. There's a lot to do to cut that. There's a lot to do to cut that off. That's going to be a little while before that actually happens. But
it makes you wonder if it's not so close. Being so close to the Mexican coastline there, I've seen these situations. You've got that subsident dry air coming off the Mexican plateau there because it's very, very dry. Water vapor shows that, and it's getting ingested right into the core of the system right now.
Jeremy Stala asked how many millibars is it, and the last I saw was 991 from the flight a few minutes ago. 991 was the last one. 993 and 991 I did see. And Am House says we're praying for everybody's safety, yours as well, Brett. During the next 24 hours is, again, a projected Category 2 hurricane, maybe winds greater than 100 miles per hour, will be coming on shore to eastern Louisiana. And that is going to be the story over the next couple of days of when that happens. A big veer that's going to take place in the next 24 hours with the storm being pushed a little bit further to the north instead of just kind of meandering there. A northward movement and then eastward movement off to the east. And I guess there's... a lot of people have asked, is there any shot at all of this moving too far to the east, into the New Orleans area there, Brett? And, modeling has gotten so good here as of late. That would surprise me to death because I think every single spaghetti plot I have seen just shoves this thing into that area. Actually, this is going to be as of 0Z. And there's only one or two outliers there, but pretty much the consensus is right up the chute there. Sorry.
Yeah, to me though, I still believe everybody needs to be prepared because the dirty side of this storm, New Orleans will definitely be on it. The onshore flow side, there maybe even in the Pontchartrain. We're expecting 2 to 4 feet of surge as it stands to the Mississippi-Alabama border. 4 feet being the high end at the intensities that we currently have. But we're talking, HC's forecasting 5 to 10 feet of surge into Vermilion Bay from this. And this is, again, low end Cat 2 is the forecast. So we got to be really careful with it because if you start busting up toward Cat 3, you're talking 12 to 14 feet of surge in Vermilion Bay. It could get haywire pretty quick.
Yeah, and again, timing on this, just so you know, the timing again is 48 hours before landfall, 48 hours. It's kind of puts us at about 7 o'clock hour on a Wednesday, 7 o'clock hour on Wednesday. So tomorrow is another prep day. Tomorrow, everybody will be along the Gulf Coast for sure. We'll be doing just that. Brett and I have been down there. What was the name of that storm, Brett? It was an ice storm. Irma?
Ida.
Yeah. This is the people down there. I've been, like Brett says, I've been down there for quite a few, and Brett's probably been down there more than I have. But in the past 20 years, I've been down there for quite a few. And the people down there, they're twofold. There are a lot of people there who say, I've lived here for 55, 60 years, I ain't moving. And then there are a lot of people who do move, but we were there after a pretty good storm, actually. In the 24 hours, 48 hours that was after the storm was pretty mind-bending there, because a lot of people who didn't have anything after it was over with were in great need. And I've seen this thing go several different ways. I've seen FEMA come in and do just an awesome job, and people who were aware of where they were. And then I've seen it be so confusing that people just didn't do anything. I mean, they were sort of distraught while they were sitting there. Brett and I have seen water being piled up, just cases and cases of water that nobody could actually get to. And I hope, another year's gone by, Brett, maybe there's some more planning, whatever the case may be. And we are thinking about everybody there, because even a Category 2 hurricane can cause quite a bit of damage.
No doubt about it, Dave. No doubt about it. And that's the hope right now. Everybody's paying attention, though. I can tell you that. I talked to a lot of people today, and they are paying attention to this situation. This thing looked a whole lot better just a little while ago, and the thoughts down here were not very good. The thoughts were that we could be dealing with another major hurricane strike, and we're not out of the woods yet. We've got some time. Let's see what this looks like in the morning, and as it starts to accelerate toward the coastline. As you see, it doesn't move very much between now and tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, though, based on that forecast. But after that, it starts to accelerate.
Yeah, it starts to accelerate. And then specifically on the right side of where the center goes is most typically where the worst is. And that's where all your storm surge comes. That's where most of your winds come. So plan accordingly. And we're, I'm sure there's tons of information out there, but we're going to be one of the sources during the day. Tomorrow, Brett's going to have those cameras out. Those will be super interesting, Brett, and we'll get those out on your side as well. Is there anything else you want to say?
I think that's it, Dave. I think we're ready to go and prepared. And again, we'll be out tomorrow deploying some camera networks for the system, and we'll be tracking Francine as it moves toward the coastline.
All right, I'm David Neal. He's Brett Adair, and we're as always, we're trying to cover the storm. Brandon Jarvis is with us. He is in my ear, and he's the reason that we're on the air, and God only knows where Brandon is, because Brandon's a little bit of everywhere, but he is running the board for us tonight. So we appreciate it. This is LSM Television, and we'll be with you through the day and throughout the entire event here as this Francine starts headed northward across the southern portions of the United States, southeastern Gulf area, and we'll keep you up to date. That's it for now. Thank you all for checking in. Didn't expect anybody. Somebody from Colorado. Jeremy says I'm safe in Colorado. Stay there, bro.